Welcome to the Leadership Sparq Podcast, where we equip you to be the great leader your people deserve. This is Corey. I'm here with Hampton, and today we're going to talk about the job of a leader, but we're going to talk about the second job of a leader. And Hampton, I came across this. It was something that was written by our good buddy Jeff Henderson, who's a friend of Sparq, and a very, very impressive thought leader in multiple ways and multiple domains. And so he introduced this idea of the second job of a leader. And what I want to do is I'm going to read it. I'm going to read what he wrote, and then Hampton, we're going to respond to that and unpack it and provide some color around it, because I think this is very, very interesting to think about as a leader. And so he says this: the first job of a leader is to define reality. The first job of a leader is to define reality. While this famous quote from author Max Dupree is true, the second job of a leader is more important. The second next step for the leader is to define what's possible. What's real comes first. What's possible comes next. And so your job as a leader is to do both. Is to define reality and is to define what's possible. And he says the challenge with this is what's true is easy to see. Think about this on your own team. You can look at spreadsheets, data, sales reports, metrics, dashboards, tools, technologies, and all of this is helpful, but if we're not careful, it also can be harmful. Instead of seeing what's real as a starting point, it can become boundaries, walling us off from what's possible. The telltale sign is how much the team discusses reality in meetings in comparison to what's possible. If a team spends too much time discussing their current state, they often stay there. Reality doesn't take new ground. The vision of what's possible can. And so think about that, Hampton. I want you to respond to it. Reality doesn't take new ground. The vision of what's possible can. But there needs to be this balance of confronting the brutal facts of reality and the hope of what we could do together in the future. That's the Stockdale paradox, Jim Collins, Good to Great. But this idea of a leader's job is to do both, define reality and define what's possible. So what do you think about that? What comes to mind in the context of leading when you hear these two different aspects of the job of a leader?
I think every person listening to this probably is more skilled or is more wired or bends more towards one of these. For me, it depends on the season I'm in, the role that I'm in. A lot of times I have been more casting vision towards the future without always looking at the necessary brutal facts. And so an adjustment that I've really been working on over the last year, it's been more helpful in my new role personally, is looking at the facts and using that to look into the future and cast vision to the rest of the team. But you may be listening to this and all you see is the data, all you see is the numbers and the analytics, and the people on your team, they're like, okay, I get it, but why are we here? What are we working towards? What possibilities do we have? And so maybe your go-and-do today is to see if you can see through the clouds, see into the future, and be able to cast vision for the rest of your team. And if you can't, don't fret, don't freak out too much. Maybe ask for some help in that area. I don't know. Is that a good thing to do?
We talk about this a lot, right, in the podcast, that extraordinary teams harness the brilliance of everyone in the room, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that's a great point, that if you default to one or the other naturally, then there may be someone on your team who can balance that out. And so find that person and empower them to balance it out. But as a leader, be mindful of the fact that you need to do both. You need to define reality and you need to define what's possible. And so your go-and-do is this. Think about over the last week. How much time did you spend in reality versus what's possible? Do a self-audit. Think about that. Think about the context that you were yourself, or individual conversations, maybe a one-on-one or a team meeting. And then this week, do the opposite. This week, spend time on the second job, whichever one that is. Or, like we talked about, go empower someone to help you with it. Your team needs both as a leader.